All right, let's dive in. Today we're tackling Netflix, and wow, you weren't kidding about the source material.
Yeah, it's quite the mix.
Business reports, articles on their history, even some media theory. Real deep dive stuff, but hey, that's what we do, right?
Absolutely. Unpack it all. See the big picture.
Exactly. So the goal, to understand how Netflix got so huge, what challenges they're facing now, and maybe even predict where this streaming giant is headed.
And I think one of the most interesting things about Netflix is how they really disrupted the whole entertainment industry.
Right. I mean, just look at Blockbuster. Talk about a classic example of knowing your enemy.
Oh, yeah. Netflix's early success was tied directly to Blockbuster's downfall.
But remind me, how did that all go down? I vaguely remember late fees and hoping they had the movie I wanted.
Well, back in the late 90s, renting videos meant exactly that. Going to Blockbuster, hoping for the best, and dealing with those dreaded late fees. Netflix saw a chance to offer something way more convenient and personalized.
Okay, so they saw the problem, but what really set them apart was that they didn't just offer an alternative. They understood that technology was going to change everything.
Right. They were all over DVDs early on, even partnering with manufacturers to include Netflix coupons in the packaging. They knew broadband internet was going to become a big deal, and they positioned themselves perfectly to take advantage of that.
It's like they predicted the future. Makes you think about how important it is to spot trends early on. But hold on, back to Blockbuster for a sec. One of these articles mentions that Netflix actually tried to sell themselves to them back in 2000. Can you believe that?
Yep, it's true. Netflix saw themselves as like a natural extension of Blockbuster's business. They thought they could handle the online stuff while Blockbuster kept their stores.
So basically, they wanted to join forces. What happened?
They offered to sell for, get this, $50 million.
And Blockbuster said no. Seriously, what were they thinking?
Seems like Blockbuster just couldn't imagine a future where people would get their movies through the mail. Underestimated convenience, underestimated technology. A classic example of a company failing to adapt.
Yeah, a real cautionary tale. So, Netflix wins that round, takes down the video rental giant. But then things get even more interesting, right? Because now we're talking streaming wars. Is that just hype, or is it really as intense as it sounds?
Oh, it's intense. The competition is fierce. You've got Disney Plus, Amazon Prime Video, HBO Max, Apple TV Plus, and that's just scratching the surface. Everybody wants a piece of the pie.
And they all have their strengths, right? Like,
Yeah.
I was reading that Disney actually has more streaming subscribers than Netflix if you combine all their platforms, Disney Plus, Hulu, ESPN Plus, and so on.
That's a really good point. Netflix might be the biggest single service globally, but Disney, they're using their massive library and brand recognition to build a whole streaming ecosystem.
So it's not just about numbers, it's about strategy. And you know what else is interesting? Netflix's strategy has been changing lately. Adding that ad-supported tier, cracking down on password sharing, big moves.
Yeah, definitely signals that they're feeling the pressure. Slower subscriber growth, content costs are going up. The ad tier is a way to attract a different audience, while limiting password sharing is about, well, getting more paying customers.
Right, and I think the irony here is that Reed Hastings, Netflix's co-founder, once said they would never have ads.
It's a tough spot to be in, trying to find that balance between making money and keeping your core subscribers happy. It'll be fascinating to see how these changes play out.
So we were just talking about how Netflix has had to, adapt to this changing market, introducing ads, cracking down on password sharing. But it got me thinking about what it's actually like to work at a company like Netflix. The sources you gave me, they paint a pretty intense picture of their culture.
Yeah, intense is a good word for it. Netflix has this reputation for being very demanding, very high performance.
I was reading about this thing called the keeper test. And honestly, it sounds kind of brutal. Like managers are constantly asking themselves if they'd fight to keep an employee. And if the answer is no,
Well, that employee might be out. It sounds harsh, but Netflix believes it helps them maintain a really strong team. They're looking for people who, not just talented, but adaptable, innovative, constantly pushing themselves.
I get it, but that must create a ton of pressure. What about work-life balance? I mean, they do offer unlimited vacation time, right?
That's true, they do. But it's not a free-for-all. The expectation is that you take time off when you need it, but when you're working, you're fully committed, delivering results.
Okay, so it's like high trust, but also high expectations, which I guess ties into their whole thing about open and direct feedback, right? Like sunshining, is that what they call it?
Yeah, sunshining, basically giving direct feedback, even if it's negative. They believe that holding back, even if you mean well, it can actually hurt people's growth. And the company's success, of course.
It's interesting. A lot of freedom, but also a lot of directness. Seems like they're walking a tightrope there. But hasn't this culture of transparency also caused them some problems? I'm thinking about the whole Dave Chappelle special, The Closer.
Ah, yeah. That was definitely a turning point for Netflix. It forced them to really confront this issue of balancing creative freedom with social responsibility.
Because you had employees who felt the special was transphobic,
Right.
and then the walkouts.
Exactly. Put Netflix in a tough spot. On one hand, they're all about letting creators express themselves. But on the other hand, they have a responsibility to their employees, to their audience, to create a respectful environment. It's a real dilemma for any platform that hosts a wide range of content.
It really is. So what happened? How did they handle it?
Well, they ended up keeping the special. Their argument was that they offer a variety of viewpoints, and viewers can choose what they watch. But it definitely sparked some important conversations about, like, the role of streaming platforms in content moderation.
Hmm.
What's their responsibility?
Yeah, it's complex. There are no easy answers. But you know what else is interesting? Their push for employees to return to the office? It seems like a lot of tech companies are embracing remote work, but Netflix is going the other way.
Right. Reed Hastings, the co-founder, he's a big believer in in-person collaboration. He thinks those random encounters, those water cooler moments, they're crucial for innovation.
Yeah, but it's tough sell these days, isn't it? People have gotten used to working from home. Do you think it could hurt them when it comes to attracting talent?
It's a good question. I mean, some people might be looking for more flexibility. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out for them. But speaking of attracting talent, let's talk about how Netflix is spending a ridiculous amount of money on their own shows and movies. Is
Well,
that sustainable? Is it all about quantity over quality?
I mean, they've had some massive hits, right? Stranger Things, Squid Game, those were global phenomena.
True,
Mm.
but they can't all be blockbusters.
Hmm.
Their strategy seems to be more about volume, lots of different genres, hoping that enough of it sticks with different audiences.
Yeah, trying to be everything to everyone, which is, pretty ambitious.
It is. And they're not just throwing money at it. They're bringing in some serious Hollywood talent.
Mm.
Directors, writers, producers.
So there's some thought behind it, a mix of data and artistic vision. But I gotta say, I was blown away by how much content they released back in 2016. They actually surpassed traditional networks and cable channels in terms of original programming.
That's pretty incredible when you think about it. It really shows their commitment to becoming a content powerhouse, controlling their own destiny, instead of relying on licensing deals from other studios.
Which can be unpredictable and expensive, but isn't creating all this original content risky? What if people just don't watch it?
Of course, there's risk. Not everything's going to be a hit. That's why they're so focused on data, looking at viewer behavior, trying to figure out what works, and they're experimenting with different genres, different formats,
Yeah.
reality shows, documentaries, animation, you name it.
Diversifying their portfolio. Makes sense. But it's not just about content, right? International expansion is a big part of their growth strategy, too.
Huge. They know that most of their future growth is going to come from outside the U.S., so they're investing in dubbing, subtitling, making their content accessible to everyone. And they're producing original content in different languages for different regions.
So it's not just an American company anymore. They're going global. But that can't be easy. What kind of challenges do they face?
Well, for one thing, they have to be aware of cultural differences. What works in one country might not work in another. And there are different regulations, censorship laws, economic conditions to consider.
So they have to adapt their strategies, their content. It's a lot to juggle.
Absolutely. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. They have to understand the local market, the local culture, if they want to create content that resonates.
It's a fascinating challenge. Makes you wonder what other obstacles they might run into as they try to stay on top. Okay, so we've spent the last couple parts of this deep dive really getting into, the nuts and bolts of Netflix,
Hmm.
their history, their culture, all those crazy strategies. But now I'm kind of curious, what's next? What does the future hold? Because these sources, they mention some pretty big challenges coming down the pike.
Yeah, you're right. Even for a company as successful as Netflix, there are always threats, always something lurking around the corner.
And it seems like one of the biggest threats is, well, just the competition, which seems to be getting more intense all the time.
It's not just Disney and Amazon anymore, right?
Exactly. Feels like every other week there's a new streaming service popping up. I even saw something about Walmart getting into the game.
It's true. And they all have different angles, too. Niche content, bundling services with other products, like Amazon does with Prime.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, how can Netflix even keep up?
Yeah, that's the big question. I mean, they're going to have to keep innovating, that's for sure, both with their content and their technology.
Definitely. One thing that really jumped out at me from these sources was this concern about Netflix's spending. They're spending billions and billions on original content, but is that sustainable?
Right. Because a lot of these articles, they point out that Netflix's debt has been going up, and it's not just content, it's international expansion, marketing, all that tech development.
It all adds up. And then you've got the economy to think about, too. Inflation is hitting everybody. People are watching their wallets. Netflix has already raised prices a few times, and they'll probably have to do it again.
Yeah, it's tricky. They need to make money to keep growing, but they can't price themselves out of the market. And then there's that whole piracy thing. It's not going away.
As streaming gets more and more fragmented,
Hmm.
with every service having their own exclusive shows, it's going to be tempting for some people to just, go the illegal route.
It's a tough problem. So, yeah, challenges ahead for sure. But I'm also seeing some glimmers of opportunity in these sources.
Oh, yeah. There are definitely opportunities out there.
Like, international expansion seems huge. We talked about it earlier, but it's worth mentioning again. That global market is massive.
And Netflix has only just started tapping into it.
And they seem to be doing it the right way, investing in local productions, partnering with local companies, dubbing and subtitling their existing content to make it accessible to more people.
And then you've got all these new technologies and formats emerging. They're already dipping their toes into gaming. There's talk of VR, interactive storytelling. Who knows what the future holds?
Right. Like, will we even be passively watching shows anymore? Or will we be, like, part of the story?
It's pretty exciting to think about. And Netflix, with their track record of innovation, they seem well positioned to, take advantage of these new trends.
So, yeah, challenges for sure, but also a lot of potential.
Lots of potential. It'll be fascinating to see how it all plays out,
Yeah.
how they navigate these uncharted waters.
Well, this deep dive has given me a lot to think about. We've covered a lot of ground, from their early days as a DVD by mail company to where they are now. We've talked about their wins, their losses, and the future, which is, well, kind of a mystery.
Yeah, mystery. But it's a good reminder that in this world of tech and entertainment, the only thing that's constant is change.
So true. And who knows, maybe the next big disruption.
Maybe it'll come from a company we haven't even heard of yet.
Or maybe someone listening right now.
That's a great thought. A great way to wrap this up.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you learned something new, and we hope you'll keep exploring the world of entertainment, because who knows what's coming next.